Do you really have to post consistently on social media in order to grow your author platform? On today's episode, I'm talking about why I'm quitting social media and still expect to grow as an author. Let's get into it. Hey, so maybe you've had this frustration before. You're posting, you're creating content, you're on social media. It feels like all the time, and you're just not seeing consistent growth. So, what do you do? Well, it feels like for many of us, social media is kind of this necessary evil. We may get really frustrated with it. We may not love it, but we feel like you have to be out there because if you want to make a name for yourself, if you want to market your book, you've got to be posting on social. You've got to be engaging regularly. You've got to be consistent. Otherwise, you'll just get drowned out in the world of everybody else is on social media. Everyone else is going viral. Everyone else is creating content, and you are being left behind. I don't think that's true. And today we're actually going to talk about why I'm quitting social media. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I'm quitting and why I still expect to grow as an author, both in terms of my platform and my reach, but also in terms of my craft. So let's get into it. So glad you're here. It is always, as always, an honor to spend time with you. I'm so thankful to be in your ears. So if we haven't met yet, my name is TC Burr. I started writing my debut novel about a year and a half ago. I'm still in the process of editing and I've got another revision coming up soon. Another draft coming up soon, which I hope will be the final one before I get this thing in the hands of readers and start to really kind of push toward publishing and getting this thing out into the world. But it has been a incredible joy. It's been so much fun writing this book. And along the way, I've been sharing encouragement, things that I'm learning, and tips and tricks on writing, marketing, social media, time management, all of that in the hopes that it might help other new and aspiring writers, because I believe that the world needs more great stories. And unfortunately, so many writers have an idea to write a book, but because they think they don't have the time or they don't have the requisite skill, or maybe it's just something, a party that they're not invited to. So many people just let that idea or that dream sit on the shelf and collect dust until it eventually dies. So I've made it my mission to encourage and inspire people like that, maybe people like you, to not let that dream die, not let it just sit on the shelf until one day it ultimately becomes a regret, but to actually start moving forward and actually start writing the book. But one of the challenges that I've had over the course of writing is how to market the thing. How do you market yourself as an author? How do you market your book? How do you find readers and people to engage with your content and with you as an author? The most natural answer, I think, for a lot of people is social media. So you get on Instagram, you get on TikTok, you get on Threads, you get on whatever, name your platform of choice, and you've got to build an audience there. You've got to post consistently. You've got to create content. You've got to do funny dances, right? And that's the thing that's going to get your name out there, that's going to promote your book. I actually believe, and I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment here. I believe that social media is overrated. I don't think it gives the value that many of us think it does in terms of building a platform and building an audience. So I'm actually going to quit social media. And I want to have a little bit of an asterisk here before we jump in. When I say that I'm quitting social media, what I mean is that I am taking an extended break. This means I am off of Instagram, I'm off of Threads. These are the 2 primary social media platforms that I've been on. I'm not logging into them. So I'm not posting anything. I'm not lurking. I'm not responding to comments. I'm not doing anything on these social media platforms for a period of about 4 months. And I chose that time frame because of where I currently, at the time of this recording, sit in the calendar year. So it's the beginning of September. So I'm going to go September, October, November, December, completely off of these platforms, with the assumption that I will still be able to grow as an author. So that's the first kind of caveat. The first asterisk is I'm not, may or may not be quitting social media forever, but I'm definitely quitting for this period of time because I want to give it enough time to test this out and see if this theory actually holds true. The second asterisk, the second kind of caveat to this idea of quitting social media for me is I'm not including YouTube in this discussion. I personally do not consider YouTube as social media the same way that I consider Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Twitter, all of those, TikTok, you can throw in the mix. Maybe there's some other ones that I don't even know about. YouTube for me is a little bit different because for me, YouTube is primarily a content marketing platform. So I'm creating longer form videos like this one to publish on YouTube, and they're also being published in podcast platforms with the hopes to reach readers and also new and aspiring writers. And so I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to kind of focus my energy there on the YouTube and podcast platforms. I'm not on YouTube and podcasts to kind of scroll, to kind of like mindlessly look for content or connect with other people necessarily. It's more about sharing longer form content out. So and also just the way that I think a lot of people interact with YouTube. Some of them treat it more as a social platform, but most people, when you're going to YouTube, you're treating it more like a search engine. And so there's a lot of power in that concept. The fact that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine behind Google is pretty telling and pretty helpful, I think, in terms of marketing yourself as an author. So when people go to YouTube, they are looking for information. They're not looking just to be entertained. They're not looking to respond to comments necessarily or that sort of thing. The primary thing that many people are going to YouTube for is to find information. How do I fill in the blank? Or tell me about books that are, this genre of book or whatever. So those are the two kind of caveats I want to give right out of the front. I say I'm quitting social media. I am quitting everything for a period of time, and I'm not including YouTube and podcasts because I see those as fundamentally different things and more strategic than kind of what I was doing on social media. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why this is happening and why I expect to still continue to grow as an author, because that's the risk, right? Like if you say, I'd love to quit social media, oftentimes the thought that follows right after that is, but how do I tell people about my book that I'm writing, right? If I'm not on Instagram, how do I share about this work that I'm doing? And it's a valid concern. I think it's one that many people have. But reason number 1 why I'm deciding to quit social media is, number 1, I believe that social media is extremely overrated. For whatever reason, many people believe that is the first and only place you should market your books. And I've said this before, I believe that social media has a place, but it should not be the only place in terms of marketing your book, marketing yourself as an author. And in fact, I think most of us are vastly over indexed into social media, and we dismiss other marketing channels like longer form content on blog posts, YouTube, podcasts, like word of mouth, like email marketing, building an email list and marketing to those folks. All of those things I think are vastly underrated by a lot of folks. And social media is massively over indexed, over invested in. And the reality is, if you're on social media, you're chasing whether it's followers or virality or whatever the case might be. Like that's the hope, right? Like one of your reels pops off and gets millions of views, and then you're able to attract a bunch of new followers who eventually become readers and buyers of your book. Like that is the perfect scenario, I think, for social media. But the fact is, the viral reach thing, you're kind of at the mercy of the algorithms. So the algorithms, which by the way change all the time, they're really hard to pin down, and you're kind of at the mercy of whatever Zuckerberg and the folks decide to do in terms of the algorithms, right? So even if you crack the code, even if you master the algorithm, figure out this is the formula to create viral videos, which by the way, I know there are gurus out there and people out there in the social media world who will tell you like, hey, this is how you create viral videos. And we've done this for our students and all that type of thing. Okay, sure. Listen, I would be very careful about that. I don't know. Maybe they have the formula. Maybe they've really cracked the code. But I'm actually not after virality. I don't think virality has as much benefit for authors as many people think it does, because first of all, it's really hard to achieve. Second, it's very hard to predict and to sustain. And third of all, even if you go viral with a post, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that those people who see your post are going to interact with it, are going to follow you, ultimately are going to become readers or buyers of your book, right? They may just happen to catch that video or that piece of content because, the algorithm decided to promote it. Doesn't always translate to longer sustained success or people who are really actually interested in the thing that you're trying to promote and you're trying to sell. So I think we way over index on social media. That's point number 1. Point number 2, I believe that social media is a giant time waster for many of us. So in college, I was an economics major, and in economics, there's this concept called opportunity cost. And so you have a finite amount of money in the case of econ. If you spend your money on something, That by definition means you cannot spend that money on something else. And that concept is called opportunity cost, the cost of that opportunity that you no longer have, right? The same is true with our time. If you are spending an inordinate amount of time posting on social media, responding to comments on social media, liking and replying and reposting content that you see from other people on social media, that by definition is time that you could be spending elsewhere. And I don't know about you, but for me, I was spending an awful lot of amount of time doing that, doing just that. I had even skinnied mine down to focus primarily on threads, but even still, I was finding that I was having to log into threads daily or even sometimes multiple times a day to respond to comments, to post consistently. And it just got exhausting. And so that's point number two, reason number two why I want to quit social media. I really want to focus on my writing and on my longer form content. And by eliminating social media completely, that's freed up a lot of my time. It's also freed up a lot of my headspace. I'm not banging on my head against the wall trying to chase trends or figure out what's the next reel that I'm going to post. I've completely removed that from consideration, and it's just not something that I'm thinking about right now, which is again, the opportunity cost there I think is huge. I'm already seeing rewards here. The time and energy that I'm able to spend on writing has been greatly increased because I'm not spending time there. The other reason, and this one's a little more personal for me, I didn't love what social media was doing to my heart. And I don't know if this is one that you can relate to or not, but for me, I I think there's something in us, and the social media, the app creators, they're no dummies when it comes to this stuff. They want to subtly kind of pull on our heartstrings with social media. This is why I think sometimes when you post something for the first time on a platform, you get a big numbers in terms of views, in terms of likes. The algorithm really pushes new content from new creators. I think that's because they want to hook you. They want you to go to this one and think, finally, this platform is the one that's going to be different. This is the one that's going to help me get my name out there. And anytime you log in, and tell me if this sounds familiar, you log into, let's say, Instagram is your thing, and you see a bunch of likes, your notification thing is lit up. Maybe hopefully you don't have push notifications, but when you log in, you see you've got a bunch of notifications, new comments, new likes, new shares on a post that you created. That does something, right? It makes you feel good. Even if you know it's not necessarily going to lead to sales or anything like that, you say, "Hey, my stuff's resonating with people. This is good." And it like has control over your heart in that way. In the same way, if you log in and you see, "Oh, this post that I did, man, it's really tanking. It's not getting anywhere near the views that I normally get. What have I done wrong this time?" Right? So for me, and there's kind of the ups and downs that come with success or failure, and I'm using air quotes to talk about this. But there's also just the amount of connection that many of us, I think, have to our smartphones. There's tons of books and studies that talk about this, but I've got to believe for like as much benefit and as much good as smartphones have brought into our lives, there's also a dark side of these things. There's a big dark side to social media. The connectedness that we have is unnatural. Like, think about this. Like, for hundreds of years, thousands of years, the people that you knew, the people whose lives you had intimate details about, are is pretty limited to the people who are geographically close to you. Or maybe it's your family who you're calling long distance, right? But like now you have access in a way, and you have access to so much information. Never mind just the connections to people, but like you have so much information just bombarding you all the time. No wonder you feel like you don't have a lot of time to process or think. No wonder that you have trouble coming up with ideas because your brain is just being swamped with content all the time. And social media is a big driver of that in a lot of ways. And so turning that off, I really do believe is going to help in a big way. So the question though is, how do we get our name out there? How do we get our books out there if we're not using social media? This is a great question, and I want to offer you an alternative. I've already kind of hinted at this before. I've talked about it in past episodes. The answer is this: long form content marketing and building an email list. I'm going to swear by this for as long as I'm on the internet, as long as I'm creating content. The algorithm stuff on social media is here today, gone tomorrow. It pops up once. If people see it, great. If they share it, maybe you get a little bit more reach, but eventually, within 24 hours, certainly, that thing is long gone. It's forgotten. It's done. Longer form content, particularly on YouTube, is evergreen. And I don't necessarily mean that it's always relevant, although it might be. But what I mean when I say evergreen is that it's out there and it's searchable. So when someone goes out and searches for example, if someone says, should authors be on social media? Or can I quit social media as an author? If I'm using the right keywords and I'm publishing this in the right categories, this is going to come up in that search. Even if somebody comes and searches for this 10 years from the time I'm recording it, social media does not work that way. So you get a lot more staying power with this longer form content. So blogs, podcasts, YouTube, that's what when I talk about longer form, that is what I'm talking about. You have that searchability. You have the connection. So if you're doing a podcast, a 15-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute podcast, you're able to connect with your audience in a way that you cannot do in a 60 to 90-second reel on Instagram or a text-based post on Threads. You're just not able to do it. The runway that you have to do in order to do that is so much longer. You have to create so many reels over the course of a long period of time, and then fingers crossed, all your followers see that content in order to build that same type of connection where you can do it super fast in a podcast episode. So I'll give you a good example. So I have a group of guys that I go to church with who I've hung out with. I see them on Sundays and maybe Wednesday nights, and I see them regularly for years. But we went away on a men's retreat a couple years ago, and we spent 48 hours in a cabin in the woods all day long with one another. Think about how much relational depth we were able to establish in those 48 hours. And we actually talked with a guy after we got back. Like, there's so much relationship building that can happen in that concentrated time that doesn't happen in these little connections that you have over time. I think both are important, both are useful, but hopefully that analogy connects. You can connect with your audience in such a deeper and bigger way when you're doing longer form content than you ever could in these shorter, kind of here today, gone tomorrow social media posts. Also, you are able to get people onto your email list. So the people who really are interested in what you're doing, if you've got a newsletter or an email list that you've kind of created, which if you don't, I would love to help you do that. Let me know if you have questions. I can walk you through how I've done it and what that looks like for me. But getting people on your email list is a great way to stay connected to them. Now you are no longer at the mercy of these social media platforms and the algorithms kind of getting your content in front of people. Now you've got a direct line into those folks. And that's just a much better connection, so that if something happens and, Facebook shuts down tomorrow, God forbid that happens. But if it does happen, like, you don't lose all that connection because now you've got a direct line to contact those folks. So I'm going to try it out. Like I said, I don't know that this is going to work. I may come back in 4 months and I will give an update, but I may come back and say, you know what, I got off social media and my growth kind of flatlined. It tanked. It didn't work. And the energy that I got, the focus that I was able to get in my writing wasn't really, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze kind of thing. So I will gladly come back and eat crow if that's what happens. And I might come back and say, hey, it worked a little bit, or I felt great about it, but I'm getting back on social media because I miss it too much. But my theory is twofold. Number one, I think I'm gonna prove my theory that social media is overrated and we way over index on it. And I think my time and my heart are going to be freed up to do a lot more of the creative work that I want to do anyway. So maybe you're listening to this episode and this is really resonating with you and you're thinking, yeah, I want to get off this social media stuff too. How do you do it? Like, drop me a comment if that's you. Send me an email. I would love to connect and talk more and help you game plan what this looks like in your own life. And maybe you're saying, hey, I want to write, but I don't even know where to start. I have good news. I can help you with that too. So go to pages.tcburr.com. I've created a free 4-week writing challenge that walks you through how to set a writing goal, how to track your progress. I've got links to other resources in there that can help you do that. I think it's really going to help. It will help you kind of, again, get started and keep going on your writing, because at the end of the day, my motivation for doing all of this is I think the world needs more great stories, and I believe you are the only person who can write yours. So if social media is getting in the way, if it's dragging you down, if it's crushing your heart like it can do for so many of us, maybe it's a good idea for you to just step away for a season. Or if you're not willing to do that, maybe you narrow it down to just one and schedule some posts so that you're not logging in every day. Either way, I'm interested to see what experiments are you willing to try when it comes to your social media use that will help you focus more on your writing while still getting your name out there, promoting your book and yourself as an author. I'd love to know if you agree, disagree, what ideas you're going to try this week. Drop me a comment below. Let me know. And if you like this content, please follow and subscribe to the show and consider writing a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Again, this is super fun and I hope it's helpful. So until next time, keep writing and I'll talk to you soon. Later.